Welcome back to MHS, Midnight Horror Stories. I know many of you choose these videos to relax and easily drift off to sleep. Before you slip into your dreams, could you do me a small favor? Leave a quick interaction and let us know where you're watching this and at what time. Now, let's begin tonight's horror stories. The clock on the wall said 9 p.m. I glanced out the window of the Dollar Tree. Parking lot was damn near empty. Just my car and a red one parked way out in the corner. I wrapped up the last bit of cleaning for the day and was about to clock out. Next time I looked, it was already 9:45. I muttered a little prayer under my breath. Please, nobody come in now. And of course, right on cue, ding ding, the doorbell went off. I looked up. A white guy walked in, probably mid-40s. Shoulder-length brown hair, thick mustache. Didn't even glance at me, just headed straight to the canned food aisle. I gave him a polite hi and went back to sweeping. Couldn't help but chuckle. Guess that's what I get for wishing too hard. Life's got a real sense of humor. The guy was moving slow, sneakers squeaking with every step. I could hear him rustling through the shelves, poking around like he was looking for something specific. I finished up, rolled the cleaning cart behind the counter, checked the register, started counting the drawer, logged today's sales in the book. As I scanned the numbers, that guy popped back into my head. I glanced at the clock, 9:55, looked around the store. He was gone, dead silent. I walked down every aisle, nothing, no one. Checked the men's restroom, gave the door a polite knock. Anyone in there? Silence. I pushed the door open. Empty. He must have left without buying anything. Guess he didn't find what he wanted. I was busy cleaning, so I didn't catch him leaving. The front door doesn't chime when someone goes out, only when they come in. Yeah, that's probably what happened. At exactly 10 p.m., I wrapped up my shift, locked the main door, shut off the lights in the customer area. Only the ones over the register and by the back exit were still on. Grabbed my bag from the staff locker. Time to head out the back door. I started thinking about tomorrow. Day off. Plan, cook something decent, and binge Netflix. The sound of glass shattering rang out from the front of the store. I jumped, let out a scream, spun around. A jar of jam had hit the floor, smashed to pieces. Thick, dark purple strawberry jam oozed everywhere. At the end of the aisle stood the man, just standing there, staring right at me. He was smiling, wide, too wide, yellow teeth. My heart was hammering in my chest. He'd been here the whole time, hiding, somewhere, and I hadn't seen him. The store's closed, come back tomorrow, I called out, voice shaking. He didn't say a word, just grabbed a box of cereal and whipped it onto the floor. It exploded on impact, flakes flying everywhere. You need to leave, now. I tried to sound firm. Truth was, I was scared out of my damn mind. He picked up a bottle of detergent and hurled it. The cap popped off when it hit. Blue liquid spilled out, mixing with the jam. I backed up toward the counter. My hands were shaking as I reached for the phone. He started walking toward me, still grinning, still laughing. The laugh didn't sound human anymore. I turned and bolted for the back door, fumbled with the key and dropped it. I bent down to grab the key, hands still trembling. Behind me, I could hear more crashing, stuff falling, glass shattering. I fumbled with the lock, managed to get the back door open, and bolted into the parking lot behind the store. Sprinted to my car, hit the unlock button on the remote, jumped in, slammed the door shut, locked it right away. My fingers shook as I dialed 911. Dollar Tree on Maple Street. There's a man inside. He started wrecking the place after closing. I'm on the night shift. Police will be there in 5 minutes. Are you hurt? No, I said. I'm in my car, out back in the parking lot. From where I sat, I could just make out his shadow moving through the store, thanks to the faint glow from the register lights and the back exit. More glass breaking, more thuds. 10 minutes later, the first cruiser pulled up. No siren, just those red and blue lights spinning in the dark. 2 officers stepped out, hands hovering over their guns. I jumped out of my car and ran over to them. "He's still in there. I don't know what he wants." One of the cops looked at me and gave a short nod. "You know who he is? Name?" "I don't know. He came in right before closing like a normal customer. I thought he'd left." The other officer clicked his radio. "We need backup at the Dollar Tree on Maple. Male suspect, breaking and entering. Property damage in progress." The two officers moved toward the back door. I stayed by my car, watching. A few minutes later, another cruiser pulled in. 3 more cops jumped out and headed straight into the store. "Out! Hands up!" Their voices boomed from inside. Then a scream, not fear, rage, raw and feral, like some wild animal backed into a corner. There was a crash, heavy, footsteps pounding. Then the sound of metal slamming against metal. I stood outside, frozen, adrenaline buzzing in my veins. "Stop! We got him!" After 10 long minutes, they brought him out. His hands were cuffed behind his back. His t-shirt was ripped to shreds. But the worst part? He was still smiling, grinning like the whole thing had been some big joke. As they walked him past me, he turned his head, locked eyes with me. In the harsh glare of the police car's headlights, his face looked off. He mumbled something as they loaded him in, too low to catch. One of the squad cars drove off with the man inside. 2 of the officers stayed behind to take my statement. They walked me back into the store so I could check the damage. It looked like a war zone. Stuff everywhere. Shelves knocked over. Broken glass scattered across the floor like glitter from hell. There was a skull drawn in strawberry jam on the floor near the register. Fear surged up and I started crying. The 2 officers gave me a ride home. It was midnight. 2 days later, I was back on the morning shift. The store was in full restock mode after the whole mess. That's when I got a call from the police with an update on the case. The guy's name was Gray Carter. Used to work here 2 years ago. Got into a legal fight with a customer. Ended up getting fired. Since then, he'd become mentally unstable. Had made threats to a bunch of people. I stood there staring out over the half-stocked shelves, carts, and boxes. This wasn't just some random act of vandalism. It was a symptom of something deeper. A crack in the surface. A reminder of the wounds in this town that never really healed. That was hands down the weirdest trip to the Dollar Tree I've ever had. And believe me, I'm never gonna forget it. It was just a random afternoon. I got off work early, figured I'd swing by the Dollar Tree to grab a couple things. The sky was heavy, clouds all dark and moody like it was about to pour. I hopped out of my car, mentally ticking off what I needed while I walked in. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, shining down on the jam-packed shelves. The air smelled like cheap plastic and industrial cleaner. Some generic pop song played from the ceiling speakers, mixed with the steady beeping of the barcode scanner up front. I needed toilet paper, detergent, and maybe some snack packs. So I headed straight to the personal care aisle. That's when it happened. This dude suddenly rushed past me, looked to be in his 40s, gray hair all wild. He wore a wrinkled t-shirt and ripped jeans. He was speed walking, cart loaded to the brim, stuff piled high, barely hanging on. Then out of nowhere, he slammed to a stop in front of this lady looking at shampoo. "Can you pay for me? I really need this," he rasped, voice rough like sandpaper. The woman blinked, shook her head, and stepped back quick. He didn't miss a beat, swung around to an old guy near the cough meds. "Can you cover me? It's just $40. The old dude just shook his head and hightailed it down the aisle. I dipped my head, tried to disappear, prayed he wouldn't see me. But no such luck. "Hey, you!" He was already marching over, wheels clattering. "Can you pay for me? I swear I'll pay you back." His eyes were bloodshot, and he had that faint booze stink on him. I shook my head. "Sorry, man, I can't." His face twisted, went from begging to pissed in a blink. Eyes wide, jaw clenched. It's just 40 damn dollars, he barked, voice getting louder. I don't have much money either, I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I nudged my cart away. But he stepped right in front of me, then, out of nowhere, flipped his cart over. Everything went flying. Loud crash. Mouthwash bottle rolled straight to my feet. Packs of gum scattered everywhere. What the hell is your problem? He yelled, voice booming through the store. I flinched. My heart was hammering. People were staring now, everyone frozen. I tried to move past him, get out of the aisle, but he blocked me again. What's your problem, huh? He said again, face red. $40. What's your damn problem? Sorry, I gotta go, I said, backing away. My voice was shaky, my throat tight, but he kept coming. Heavy footsteps pounding behind me. What's your problem, huh? What's your problem? His voice got louder each time, repeating like a broken record. I picked up the pace, pushing the cart faster, wheels squeaking. Hey! Another voice rang out, a guy from the store, an employee walking toward us. What's your problem? The man froze, spun toward the clerk. I was just asking her. That's it. You're disturbing other customers, the employee said, firm. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. I didn't do anything. I just needed help. What's so wrong about that? The guy threw his hands up, trying to explain like he was the victim. I stopped at the end of the aisle, breathing hard. My palms were sweaty, heart pounding. You need to leave, now, or I'm calling the cops, the clerk said again, his tone sharper. The man went quiet, still staring at me. Then he gave a slow nod. Okay, I'll go. But just before he turned to leave, he crouched down. For a second, I thought he was gonna pick up the stuff he'd thrown. Instead, he peeled off his ragged brown slippers, then yanked off his filthy white socks. What's your problem? He screamed one last time and hurled the slippers and socks straight at me. I jumped to the side. They slammed into the shelf behind me, knocking down a whole row of shampoo bottles. The sweaty socks landed right next to my cartwheel, and the stench hit me a second later. He walked barefoot toward the exit, leaving wet, grimy footprints on the tile as he went. The store clerk just shook his head and started picking up the mess. You all right? He asked. Guys like that show up from time to time, usually high on something, lose control, start hassling people. I gave a small nod. Thanks for stepping in. I was still rattled. I wrapped up my shopping as fast as I could. At checkout, I kept glancing toward the entrance, paranoid he might be out there waiting. But the parking lot was clear. I got in my car and slammed the door shut, locking it right away. Even on the drive home, I could still hear it echoing in my head. What's your problem? To him, the problem was simple. I didn't help. I didn't give him what he wanted. That was hands down the wildest trip to Dollar Tree I've ever had. And yeah, there's no way I'm forgetting it. My name's Judith. Last Friday night after work, I stopped by the Dollar Tree to grab a birthday card for my daughter. She was turning 7 the next day, and I'd been so swamped I nearly forgot. It was around 10 p.m. when I pulled into the parking lot. The place was pretty much deserted. It should be quick. I knew the store was about to close, so I hurried inside. The cashier, a young woman. She gave me a quick nod and kept stacking gum on the shelves. I wandered down the aisles, hunting for the card section. That's when I noticed a guy standing at the end of the aisle. He was dressed head to toe in black, hood pulled up over his face. I grabbed a pink birthday card with a cake on it. When I turned around, the guy was gone. Didn't think much of it. Just walked up to the register. I paid my $2 and left. As I stepped outside, I spotted him again. He was leaning against a green pickup truck parked way over in the corner. He is staring at me. I tried not to make a big deal out of it, unlocked my car, and slid into the driver's seat. In that moment, all I could think about was what to write in the card. I started the car, backed out of the space, glanced at the rearview mirror. The guy was gone. The drive home was the usual one. Quiet neighborhoods, old 2-story houses from the 60s, most of them dark at that hour. As I turned onto my street, I heard something coming from the back of the car. It sounded like something rolling across the floor. Probably just a water bottle or some random thing I'd tossed in the back seat earlier. But then it happened again. Clearer this time. That wasn't a water bottle. It sounded like movement. My heart kicked up. I checked the rearview mirror again, but it was too dark to make out anything in the back. I reached up and flipped on the interior light. A soft yellow glow lit up the back seat. Nothing. Looked totally normal. Maybe my brain was making stuff up. And then, another sound. This time, from the trunk. I froze, hands tightening around the steering wheel. Held my breath. Just listened. Maybe it was just the car hitting bumps in the road. But then I heard it again. My heart was pounding so hard. I swallowed and kept driving, trying to stay cool. Then came another sound. My hands started to shake. There was someone in my trunk. That guy in the black hoodie flashed through my mind, the one from the Dollar Tree lot. Could it be him? If he knocked the back seat down, he could get to me. Easy. What the hell was I supposed to do? Keep driving like everything was fine? Call the cops? But my phone was in my purse, sitting in the back seat. I didn't dare reach for it. Just keep breathing. Think. Then the sound from the trunk came again. Louder this time. Someone shifting, moving around. And then I heard something that made my blood run cold. It was the sound of metal hitting metal. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I slammed on the brakes. The car jerked to a stop right in the middle of the street. Thank God there wasn't any traffic at that hour. I killed the engine, flung the door open, and jumped out. Took off like a shot. Didn't even dare look back. My heels were clicking like crazy on the sidewalk as I ran. I spotted a house with a light on and bolted straight for it. Please, somebody help me. Open the door. A minute later, the door creaked open. There's someone in my car, in the trunk. Please call the cops. The guy who answered looked me over, dead serious. You sure? I heard noises from the trunk, and there's this man. He's been following me since the Dollar Tree. Please, just call the police. He gave me a nod, grabbed his phone and dialed. Where's your car? He asked while dialing. I pointed down the street. Over there, the gray one. We both looked. My car was still sitting in the middle of the road, driver's door hanging wide open, but there was no one around. The cops showed up about 10 minutes later. I told them everything. One of the officers jotted notes in his little notebook, while the other headed over to check my car with a flashlight. Did you see the guy's face? No. He kept his hood down the whole time. The officer circled the car, checked under it, then walked to the back and popped the trunk. He called us over. Inside the trunk, there were footprints, big ones, pressed deep into the gray carpet. Definitely a man's. Someone had definitely been in your trunk. Those footprints prove it. My head started spinning. My legs felt like jello. If I hadn't slammed on the brakes and jumped out, he could have waited me out. Or worse. We'll check the area. You want us to take you home? Yeah, please. They put me in the back of the patrol car, and another officer drove behind in mine. From now on, check your car before you get in. That guy knew your car. The officers gave me a few warnings, then took off. After they left, I went straight to my daughter's room and checked in on her. Then I walked back to the living room and sank into the couch, hugging a pillow to my chest. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, that man in the black hoodie, just standing there in the parking lot, watching me. And I knew exactly what he wanted. A woman, alone, late at night. He'd been watching me from the store, just waiting for the right moment to slip into my car. If I'd driven all the way home and parked in the garage where no one could see us, he would have gotten out and done whatever he wanted. I've got security cameras now, all over the house, and every time I get in my car, I check the back seat. I check the trunk too. Every single time. At red lights, I check the rear view, and when I hear a weird noise behind the car, my heart starts pounding, just like it did that night, because I know he's still out there, somewhere, waiting for his next victim.
One evening, as I was drifting off to sleep, my phone suddenly rang. I jolted awake, my face scrunching up in discomfort at being disturbed. I answered the call, pressing the phone to my ear without bothering to check who was calling.
"Please help me,"
a man shouted. I instinctively pulled the phone away from my ear. When I looked at the number displayed on the screen, I rubbed my eyes 3 times. 911?
"Please help me. He's about to catch up with me."
The person on the other end was panicking, his voice distorted, as if he were crying and desperate. "Who are you? Please calm down and tell me your address. I will help you call the police." I hurriedly replied to him, then paused. But the number of the police hotline is calling for my help. Stunned for a few seconds, when I raised the phone to my ear again, I could only hear the long beeping sounds. What just happened? I think about the safety of that man. But how can I call the police when they're the ones calling for help? That was the first time I received such a strange call. Of course, things didn't just end there. The second time, while I was preparing lunch for a relaxing weekend, the phone rang loudly. When I saw the screen display 911, I hesitated to answer. After the scream, there was silence, and I could hear my heart pounding loudly. "May I ask, who is on the other end of the line?" In response, there was still silence, followed by a soft sigh, and then the call ended. I was annoyed because I was pretty sure I was being pranked by some idle person. If there's another time, I definitely won't let him get away with it. The third call came a week later, when I thought I had escaped those pranks. I picked up the third call with irritation, taking a deep breath to prepare to give that bastard a lesson when,
"Please help me,"
a girl's voice. I estimated she was about 7 or 8 years old. Before I could answer, there was a chilling sound when flesh was impacted, the sound of metal, the squelching noise, and the drip of liquid falling. It was so clear that it penetrated my eardrum, followed by the long beeping sounds pulling me back to reality. I immediately removed the SIM card and buried the phone deep in the wardrobe. My mental state in the following days was in turmoil. I chose to stay home, haunted by all the noises, unable to control my mind from imagining the horrific scene behind that third call. I didn't share the story with anyone for fear of being accused of slander or suspected of being mentally insane. I kept avoiding it along with the fear and a million thoughts. On the 10th day, I decided to go outside to get some fresh air and relieve my stress. It was all just a cruel prank. That was my way of reassuring myself, and the most convincing reason I could find. The sunset evening in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where I live, is truly wonderful. Wearing my running shoes, I jogged slowly while enjoying the scenery around me. It's a shame that these unexplained events have affected my life, and I've wasted this beautiful scenery for so long. I had run about 4 miles away from home. As I was walking gently to relax my body and head home, I encountered a man whose gaze was fixed intently on me. His pink outfit contrasted sharply with his angular, menacing face, creating a bizarre mismatch. I'm not someone who likes to pick fights, so I quickly left. I could hear someone's footsteps behind me, and I unconsciously walked faster, my heart pounding. I turned my head slightly to look back and saw a tall figure in pink clothing. It seemed to be the man from earlier. Is he just on the same path, or does he have other intentions? I stopped, stretched my body a bit, and ran. After all, I was in the appearance of a runner. I started to run. This would be a test. If he didn't follow, it meant I had been overthinking. But no, the man immediately shifted gears and sped up quickly. He chased after me, growling like a wild dog in a frenzy. I ran as fast as I could, with all my survival instincts and the desire to live. After running quite a distance, I thought about calling the police, but damn it, my phone was still buried in the closet. As soon as I saw a phone booth, I rushed in and locked the door, almost crying like a lost child. Unable to think of anything, instead of dialing the police, I pressed a very long number. "Please help me. He's about to catch up with me." I panicked, cried, and desperately screamed into the phone when I saw that crazy guy in the pink outfit holding a knife.
Who are you? Please, calmly tell me your address, and I will help you call the police.
I shuddered. I had just called myself.
I'm Betty, 32 years old, living in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm an extrovert who likes to party. Every weekend, I will go to a bar to relieve stress after a week of work. Gradually, I cannot do without cocktails, music, lights, and dances. They make me feel extremely relaxed. And every day, I came home later and later. There were times when I didn't leave the bar until dawn. But I just went there to have fun. Absolutely nothing else. I live alone in an apartment in the Edge in downtown area. I am free to do what I want, and I have no intention of getting married. Everything went normal until one day. That was Saturday. I arrived to my apartment lobby around 12 o'clock. My hair was messy. I held high heels in one hand and a handbag in the other, walking unsteadily. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button to the 15th floor. I could feel the strong smell of my alcohol throughout the elevator. Just as the elevator door was about to close, a hand came to stop it. Entering was a tall man, dressed in black and wearing a full face mask. I was half sober, half drunk, so I didn't pay too much attention to him. He reached across my face and pressed the button for floor number 14. The smell of perfume on him was quite impressive. Silence reigned for a few seconds. The elevator displayed floor number 14. The man stepped out. He turned around and looked straight at me, and at the same time took out a small knife. He spoke in a very low voice. "See you on the 15th floor, sister." Then, a terrifying laugh echoed. It took me a few seconds to realize I was in danger. I quickly dialed the elevator's floor number. I want to call the police, but I can't remember the phone number. Without any preparations, the elevator reached the 15th floor and opened the door. My body stiffened. I knew I was about to encounter something terrible, but I couldn't resist anymore. A few seconds later, everything went quiet. I slowly walked out of the elevator, looked around and saw no one. I quickly ran back to my apartment and locked my door. If it were anyone else, I think they would call the police or building security. But I don't. Part of me is controlled by alcohol. I threw my things onto the floor and ran into the bedroom. I slept and forgot about the danger that was still lurking. The next morning, I woke up and looked at the clock. It was already past 10 a.m. My head hurts, my whole body aches, and the memory of last night is like a broken tape. When I sat up, trying to regain consciousness, I was startled to see a sharp knife placed on the pillow next to me. Holding up the knife for inspection, my heart felt like it was tightening as I read the name engraved onto the blade. Frank. Running out of the bedroom, before my eyes was the chaotic scene of the living room. Underwear was scattered all over the floor, but it was all torn. Returning to the bedroom, I now noticed that the wardrobe had been ransacked and my underwear was gone. Neatly placed inside is a set of red underwear and a piece of paper. "You will look great wearing it." I panicked, crumpled the piece of paper, and took the clothes straight to the trash can in the kitchen and threw it in. I tied the trash bag tightly. In the cutlery drawer, a string appeared. I grabbed it and pulled hard. The drawer slowly opened, revealing an old, worn-out doll wearing a white dress, her body tied tightly with a rope. The doll has a pretty smile, but has 2 black tear lines drawn on its face. Trembling, I picked up the doll and saw its dress was stained red in a sensitive position. I was extremely panicked. I took scissors and cut the doll to pieces, trying to put it in a trash bag with the underwear. But its eyes were staring at me. His eyes were innocent but filled with pain and resentment. I quickly ran towards the door. I didn't want these disgusting things to exist in the house. Running to the door, my heart was once again squeezed. The picture I took with my best friend was posted on the door. We hugged each other tightly, cheek to cheek. But my friend's face was pasted over with another man's smile. A person I hate and loathe. Frank. I fell to the floor. My head hurt. I hugged my chest and sobbed. More than 20 years ago, my mother remarried a man named Roger. My stepfather is very kind and warm, but his stepson ruined my childhood. He is Frank, a cruel pervert hiding under the appearance of a handsome and kind man. He bullied me when I was young, leaving me with long scars. When I was a high school student, he began to pay attention and confessed his love to me many times. I tried every way to avoid him and denounce him to my mother, but Frank always has the perfect excuse to cover things up. One time when my mother and stepfather were away, he lured me into the warehouse, tied me up with a rope and gagged me. He deserves to be damned for what he did to me. That disgusting pervert was sentenced to 15 years in prison. For the past 15 years, I have had a new peaceful life. I seem to have forgotten that haunting face and smile. He's back again. Why did he find my place? Is he planning on ruining my life again? The deep voice, accompanied by a chilling laughter, echoed right next to my ear, pushing me into the depths of utter terror.
Nice to see you again, dear sister.
I have smelled this perfume somewhere.
I work as a dispatch operator at the local police station. I've always wanted to be a police officer, but my health won't let me. Anyway, being a dispatch operator is kind of related to my dream, and I really love it. Even though the town only has about 12,000 people, we still get a ton of calls. Fights, petty thefts, or lost pets. It's always something. Sometimes we get quick calls that only last for a few seconds, but it can take days to investigate or wait for a follow-up. Some calls just cut off suddenly, and then later, we find out there was a murder. 2 weeks ago, there was a murder in town involving a family of 4 that spanned 3 generations. According to the family's camera, the murderer was dressed as a clown. He was so arrogant that he even walked up to the camera and gave it the middle finger. The police were still trying to track down the murderer, but that clown turned the whole thing into a joke. The defiance and arrogance of that crazy, cunning guy kept the police in town awake for days. I confidently said that my job is one of the toughest out there. At night, every call would startle me. "Hello, can I help you?"
Officer, I'm so scared.
A young girl's voice came through, and then she started crying. Just what kids do when they're scared. "Relax, girl. Where are your parents?"
They're in the living room, but they've been there for a long time.
I quickly connected the call to the police station. The little girl kept crying, and her voice begging for help made it hard for me to stay calm. I tried to calm her down by saying, "The police will be here soon. What's your name?" Even though she was crying and really scared, the little girl still answered me politely.
Orla.
"Hey there, my little blonde princess. Can you tell me what's going on?"
Turbo came to play with me. Then Turbo said he wanted to see my mom. Turbo went into Mom's room. My dad came home and went into the room too.
The little girl stopped talking and just started crying. I felt like I was sitting on a pile of fire, counting every second and hoping the police would show up soon. "What did your dad do next, Orla?"
Dad, he yelled really loudly. Then Turbo left them in the living room.
Where are you, Orla?
I'm playing hide and seek with Turbo, but Turbo has a knife. I'm scared.
You need to hide and make sure Turbo doesn't see you until the police get here. Who is Turbo?
I met Turbo at the park. He said he wanted to come to my house to play. Turbo's a clown.
I went completely numb when I heard the word clown. It brought up the most terrifying and evil images. I prayed to God to protect Orla and begged him not to take that poor girl away so soon. Back to Orla's call, I asked her what was going on. Knowing everything but not being able to do anything felt like being tortured by an invisible force. I could hear heavy, rushed footsteps and crazy laughter that I guessed was Turbo's.
Help me. I'm scared.
The last thing Orla said to me in a choked-up voice before the devil found her hiding spot. The clown's crazy laughter, getting louder and clearer, was right next to my ear.
It's fun, right?
Orla cried and begged him, but all he did was laugh in that disgusting way when he saw her fear and desperation. And that was his goal, getting his twisted, sick satisfaction as a murderer. He kept the phone connected on purpose so I could hear all those creepy, slimy, deadly sounds. All I could do was scream into the phone, threatening, cursing, and begging him. When I heard the police and the warning gunshots, I still held on to a sliver of hope that Orla would escape the devil.
The girl and her parents were murdered, and he got away again.
I heard a helpless voice from a policeman on the other end of the line, and I dropped the phone in shock. For the first time in my 30 years, I cried like a little kid. Why did I feel so hopeless and in pain? I went to the funeral of Orla's family. That 6-year-old girl was really beautiful, with blonde hair and smart eyes. After the Orla family case, nothing else happened. But we still don't know who the murderer is. Almost a year has gone by, and the police are still trying to figure it out. It's still unclear what that clown is up to, or what other plans he might have. I'm Danny, and I've hitched to my wife Michelle for almost 3 years now. My wife really wanted to get rich. We were not poor. Life wasn't overflowing, but we were not missing anything either. I work at a law office, and my wife worked in... I'm just trying to think of the right word to describe what Michelle did. Multi-industry, I think that word fits pretty well. My wife did all the jobs she thought can make some cash, instead of sticking to one field. After only a few months, my wife failed at all the jobs she did, fell into a state of depression. The family economy was supported by my salary. Are you tired, Michelle? I asked my wife at dinner. No way, Danny, I'm good, my wife said, with a kind of confused look. You can't carry all that financial weight on your own. Let me handle it, cool? I think it's time for us to have kids. You should find a chill job so you've got time to take care of the kiddos and yourself. My wife went quiet. I knew she still thought getting rich was the way to go. Then, one day, my wife dropped some shocking news on me. Danny, I just got back from the clinic, my wife said, sounding kind of hesitant and confused. My kidney, she said, and then she just started crying and fell apart. The doc said I need a kidney transplant, but I'm way at the bottom of this super long waiting list. Danny, I think I'll... No, Michelle, you're gonna be fine. Trust me. I'll get checked out, and if I can, I'll do whatever it takes for you. Can we go now? Michelle said, all excited as soon as I told her I'd be down to donate my kidney if it matched. Michelle took me to a rundown apartment building. Just thinking about how she couldn't afford to go to a decent clinic made me feel bad for her and blame myself even more. I asked my wife suspiciously about the clinic she mentioned. "Michelle, you said the clinic is here?" She didn't answer. And after we walked a bit more, I spotted an old sign with a red paint job. Dr. Cameron. Inside the clinic, the smell of cigarettes hit me hard. Not that bleach or medical supply smell I expected in a clinic or a hospital. A guy sitting in a swivel chair slowly got up and walked over to us, still holding a burning cigarette. "You must be Danny," he said in a deep voice, breathing like he'd smoked 100 cigarettes at once. "All right, let's see if your kidney is a match." "Hold up. I need you to tell me about my wife's condition first," I said, a bit shocked. "She doesn't have much time." The doctor frowned at me. "Neither do I." My wife ran over and grabbed my hand, crying and begging me to listen to the doctor. Honestly, just going along with what Michelle wanted felt like the dumbest thing I ever did. Lying on that old hospital bed with the leg support about to snap in half made me too scared to even breathe. The doctor did some quick checks, like measuring my heart rate and blood pressure, but he didn't seem to care much. He dropped a line with the cigarette hanging from his lips. "We can do the surgery right now." I jumped up and shouted, "What? You haven't even done the test results for me and my wife." Before I knew it, a cold feeling hit my arm, and my whole body felt like it was falling apart. I managed to say a few more words, and then I officially passed out, straight into the devil's arms. I have no idea how long later, I woke up with this pain in my side, feeling like my body was split in two. The light was low, still stinking of cigarette smoke. I looked around and saw Michelle talking to the doctor. Wait, she was just standing there, looking healthy and whole right after the surgery? "That's the highest price. His kidneys aren't the best quality," the doctor said, sounding pretty annoyed. "Michelle," I whispered to my wife, and she turned around surprised. You're awake? What about you? You're the one who needs an urgent kidney transplant." My wife didn't say anything. Her face went from worried to totally indifferent, and then she looked at the doctor. A few seconds later, I felt that sharp pain in my neck shoot straight to my brain again. The second time I woke up, all I could see was darkness. The cigarette smoke smell was gone, and my back felt a lot softer. I raised my hand to touch my face and felt this thick layer of gauze wrapped around my eyes. My eye sockets were sore, and there was this weird feeling of emptiness. "Where am I? What the hell is wrong with me?" I exclaimed. The darkness, suffocation, and helplessness made me totally lose it. I heard hurried footsteps and felt someone's arm gripping mine tight. "Hello, mister. I'm Dr. Bradley. Now, relax." I stayed quiet, trying to take in what he was saying, silently praying that what I was thinking wasn't true. "You were brought to the hospital with blood loss, missing your left kidney and your eyes." I screamed, both in pain and in my head. Why was my love being stomped on like this? I yanked off the IV tubes and ripped the bandage off my eyes. It was all just a nightmare. If I could just take those off, I'd see everything again, and my body would be fine. But a bunch of arms held me down on the bed, and before I knew it, a syringe went into my arm, and I passed out again. The third time I woke up, I finally realized I was in the hospital, and I started to calm down. The police came to see me, and said they got a call from one of my coworkers. He showed up at my place after I'd missed 2 days of work and found me lying on the floor, gasping for air. My mind was totally clear, and I remembered everything, especially that cold look my wife gave me. I just wanted to bolt out of there to find my cheating wife and that quack Cameron. But I couldn't. I was stuck there, feeling all the torment, regret, and despair, my heart crushed by betrayal. My wife and that bastard had sold my body parts. My name's Steven, 30 years old. I'm an architect. Together, me and my wife, Marie, had been married for a year now. Our courting time was rather short, yet both of us seemed to synchronize our zing very well. Marie's 5 years my junior, and she was very youthful for her age. She's a chief advisor for a financial firm. However tough she might seem to be, she's really in love with her inner child. Her cup of tea was everything that appeared to be cute or fluffy or both. Teddy bears, cute decorative stickers, to name a few. Sometimes I thought I was even less important than those she deemed little angels. But I was deep in love with her personality and self, so it didn't matter that much. I even designed a single room dedicated to her unyielding passion of putting the cute things on display. I might likely have to redesign a bigger room, or maybe even purchase another estate due to her growing passion. At our 1-year anniversary, I brought a special gift for her. I was pretty sure she's gonna love it. Looking at her excitedly opening up the gift box filled me with a sense of pride and happiness. It was a wooden puppet in the shape of a joker, a clown. Marie held the puppet in hands, excited since she never had any puppets within her collection. She kissed me, then looking attentively at the gift. She even mimicked the voice of a clown in thanking me. I spent quite a lot on that gift, but it didn't matter much, as long as she's happy with it. We enjoyed a cozy and modest anniversary at home. The next day, Marie told me that she wanted to exhibit the puppet in the living room. I want to put it in a glass box so everyone will see it on the way in. Today was the day we're having some family friends coming by and a small party. Because it's the big day, so I arranged it to her wish. I left the puppet there among the table with the statues. That evening, we made a feast for the guests. Our guests were our mutual friends, Joseph, Sandra, Emily, and Robert. We feasted and talked way into the evening. Everyone was pretty excited about the puppet I gifted Marie, except Emily, who's sitting on edge the entire time. Emily was an amateur psychic, and so she knew a thing or two about the supernatural. "Dudes, come look at the eyes and smirk of this puppet," she said. "It's super creepy, like this thing was cursed or something." Her words froze everyone on their conversation, especially about the gift I bought for my wife. Moreover, it was old now. "I'm not so sure, but it reeks of negative energies. It might harm you, or at least indirectly affect your well-being and happiness." The dinner's atmosphere seemed to have sunken down after her saying. I knew clearly that it was Emily's concern for us and Marie to say so, but Marie seemed to have flustered after the few words. "You're overreacting, Emily." Marie said it straight. "Thank you for your concern, but I don't want you to poke your nose into our well-being." Marie's careless wording had really struck one of Emily's nerves. The other friends and I had managed our best to keep the intense atmosphere in check, but I didn't get it, why Marie was acting weird like that. Her regular self wasn't there that day. She spat out some of the most venomous words that slowly eroded away Emily's patience. Then the two broke into a quarrel. It surprised me the most that my wife would resort to using the high-pitched voice of the clown to evoke anger within their quarrel. At that moment, I had no other choice but to step in, dragging my wife back to her room before returning to my friends. I apologized to Emily, reasoning that maybe it was the many shots of drinks that led her to act that way. But everyone was visibly upset, especially Emily. She swore that it would be the last time she even set foot inside my home, ever. Carrying a huge burden within my chest, I came back to my room with a heavy heart. Marie had slept already. Her breath full of anger fueled alcohol. After changing her sweat-soaked clothes, I sat down with many thoughts. However, the fatigue overcame it, and I fell asleep. The next morning when I woke up, Marie was nowhere to be found. Even when I barged down to the living room, Marie and the puppet were nowhere in sight. I called out for her in fear, and to my relief, Marie's voice rang back from the dining room, joyously. I went over to see a neatly made feast prepared for my sake. Marie was in a very good mood today, and seeing her like this was a huge relief. I went in and hugged her tightly, and the two of us sat down at our dining table. The sight of the puppet sitting directly opposite me startled me. It wasn't until now that I could take a closer look at it. Its two eyes, wide open, gazed directly at me, its creepy, uncannily human stare. "Why is the puppet here?" I asked Marie. "From this point forward, this puppet will be a part of our family, hun," Marie joyfully answered. Her answer was a true surprise, even for me. It was until then that I realized the puppet had the same food tray as mine, with almost identical portions. I stayed silent at the sight. To be honest, it's more like I was speechless. In stark contrast with my wife's bubbling happiness, I wasn't able to eat much. There's a bitter lump slowly rising in my throat. After breakfast, I got changed for work and was told from my wife that she's working from home today. It was kinda late, so I didn't ask a lot of questions. Before leaving, I waved at her through the window, seeing her holding the puppet with her. I suddenly got a creepy feeling. For a few seconds, her smile was kinda like the puppet itself. It was a tough day at work mentally for me. I was torn between trying to make up with Emily and was distracted by that damn puppet. It just went around and around in my head. When I came back home, I didn't see Marie come to greet me. Both the living room and kitchen were empty. That puppet was nowhere to be seen as well. When I came to my room, I was startled with the clown turning back on me. "Hey, who are you, and where's my wife?" I raised my voice. Only silence answered me. "If you don't respond, I'll call the police." I came closer, raising my voice. Surprised? Suddenly, that clown swiftly jumped into me. It was Marie, answering with a clowny voice that was of my wife, dressing up like the puppet I gifted her. She made some lame jokes, despite my protesting voice and facial expression. It was as if she's not there, or didn't care about it. I held her tightly by the shoulders, beaming my stern gaze into her. "Honey, this prank's getting old. I do not like this at all." She still maintained that lame joke, as if she deliberately not understanding what I was trying to say. I grumbled and gritted my teeth. It was then that Marie turned back to her normal self, claiming it was all just a joke, that I was overreacting. I nodded, agreeing with her statement. The atmosphere slowly returned to normal, to the point that I was calm enough to ask her to go downstairs for dinner. Except the fact that the puppet was still eyeballing me. Everything was pretty okay. But I didn't like that at all, especially when she's putting the puppet in between us during mealtime. In hindsight, I had no idea why I was so calm back then to put up with this. When we went to bed, I turned my back toward Marie and fell into an exhaustion-driven sleep quickly. A creepy chuckle jolted me off my sleep in the middle of the night. It took some time for me to get whose that chuckler was. By then I was completely drenched in sweat looking around. It was Marie, staring into the mirror, twisting and turning her head, mimicking the laughter of the puppet. There seemed to be some clicking sounds coming from my right side, prompting me to look there. It was the goddamn puppet, moving on its own. When I yelped at my wife, she swiftly turned her head to me, which again filled me with dread. She had somehow put on a clown makeup identical to that puppet. She burst into laughter, gazing at me with white rolling eyes. I snapped completely and turned around. Marie was hugging that puppet really tight in her sleep. That puppet's face was something completely out of this world. That's it. I had enough, I thought to myself, then grabbing the pillow into the couch. For the entire night huddling around the sofa, I couldn't sleep at all. Any sound would jolt me wide awake. The next morning I got up exhausted, tortured by a nasty migraine. I tried calling Emily to let her know that I believed her on the puppet affairs, but she didn't pick up the phone, likely still very mad about what happened last time. I groggily brought the glass box away to the storage. Then I'd go to wake up Marie in our room later. I had to get rid of that damn puppet. More and more, Emily's words started to make more sense. I wasn't sure whether Marie's sudden changes had anything to do with it or not, but I was sure that this puppet haunting face would cause me more nightmares to come. But as soon as I got to the stairs leading to the bedroom, that puppet was there, moving on its own. Behind it was hundreds upon hundreds of my wife's collections, staring at me, having the identical creepy smile. Then they all came at me, knocked me off the stairs. I fell hard on the ground, hitting my head. The sensation of pain struck me hard, jolted me up from my bed. What just happened? Was it all a dream? I mumbled aloud, seeing Marie turning her back on me, seemingly asleep. I was surprised, knowing that I just leaned my head and slept upon the puppet. I shook Marie to wake her up to no avail. When I turned her body around, I was too stunned to move. She was there, stiff as a log, and her beautiful face got a deep scar to mimic on the puppet's creepy smile. I yelled out and furiously smashed that puppet with all my strength before immediately took Marie to the ER. For now, Marie's in much better shape, yet it's still many months of psychiatric treatment before she completely recovered. I almost have lost her, yet I am still unsure whether that accursed puppet had a hand in this or not, as Emily had stated it earlier.
I am Erica, 29 years old. I have a happy life with a fulfilling marriage and a successful career. My husband is Oscar, 32 years old. He is my high school sweetheart. Currently, we are living and working in Washington, D.C. We have not been able to have children due to my previous surgery, and I am still undergoing treatment. One day, while working at the company, I received a call from my hometown, Boston. My mother had just suffered a heart attack and was in the hospital. I immediately informed Oscar, and we arranged our work schedules to return to Boston that night. We went straight from the airport to the hospital to visit my mother. Fortunately, she had passed the critical phase, but her health was still quite weak. Nearly 2 days without sleep, worrying about my mother, left me on the verge of collapse. Oscar was concerned and took me to my mother's house to rest. Returning to the familiar room, I felt cold and fearful. Oscar left me to rest while he needed to urgently handle some remaining work. I ran my hand over the faded bedsheet, and a wave of emotions washed over me. Moving to the study desk, I noticed 2 sketchbooks labeled Erica and Era that my mother had kept. Opening the first page of the book labeled Era, I burst into tears. It was a drawing of 2 identical little girls holding hands happily, wearing a necklace with an infinity symbol around their necks. Oscar returned and was surprised to see me crying. Oscar thought I was stressed about my mother's health. He comforted me and urged me to rest quickly. I told Oscar to stay, as having him around made me feel at ease and comfortable. I quickly drifted off to sleep. I don't remember how long it was, but I woke up, slowly opening my eyes, and saw that the person lying next to me was not Oscar. It was me, but in a horrifying form, with pale skin and eyes streaming blood. I sprang up screaming, flailing my arms and kicking to push the grotesque figure away. My wrist was gripped tightly, forcefully, and Oscar's voice shouted my name. I came to my senses. The person in front of me was Oscar. I hugged him tightly and cried. Oscar asked many questions, but I remained silent and shook my head. He stopped asking questions and said he would take me out to dinner. We had a pleasant dinner at a local restaurant. Near the end of the meal, Oscar received a phone call from a partner and left to handle it. I stayed behind to enjoy my favorite dessert. When I looked up, I accidentally saw Oscar's familiar figure, but Oscar wasn't handling work on the phone. He was leaving with another girl dressed in a red dress just like mine. I panicked, standing up to take a closer look. The girl was flirtatiously linking arms with Oscar, and she turned to look directly at me with a creepy smile. That girl looked exactly like me. I immediately chased after them, screaming my husband's name in panic and anger. As I got closer, I tugged hard at Oscar's arm, but when they turned around, they were two complete strangers. They looked at me with annoyedly. Just then, Oscar rushed over to apologize to the couple and took me away. Oscar and I visited my mother in the hospital for a while. Before returning home, I took a shower to feel more comfortable and relaxed. After finishing my shower, I returned to the bedroom and went to the closet. Upon opening the door to find my pajamas, I was surprised to see another identical set of clothes had appeared. I gradually lost my composure, rapidly swiping away those clothes. Suddenly, a grotesque face with blood-smeared eyes appeared and smiled at me. I screamed loudly, rummaging through the closet and throwing everything out. Rushing to the bookshelf, I grabbed a pair of scissors and shredded all the clothes. Unable to control my actions, I accidentally cut my own hand. When I finally calmed down, in front of me was a heap of shredded clothing and my left hand covered in wounds. Afraid that Oscar would find out and unsure how to explain it to him, I quickly cleaned everything up and returned to bed, pretending to be asleep. The next morning, I woke up to find Oscar was not by my side. Just the creaking sound echoed from the attic above. I stepped out into the hallway, calling out loudly for Oscar, but received no response. I was very afraid to go up to that attic room. Taking heavy steps, my heart raced as the distance between me and the door narrowed. Opening the door to the room, the space inside was a childhood playroom of mine. The rocking horse was moving on its own without any external influence. I stood frozen in place, gripping the doorknob tightly. The rocking horse swayed faster and harder, and the giggling voices of two children rang out.
Erica, will you and I always be together? I agree, Era.
I covered my ears tightly. My head felt like it was about to explode. I staggered backward and fell down the stairs. As I was falling, I saw my own image, standing on the highest step, looking at me with a creepy smile. I was surrounded in darkness, and the numbness rang through my whole body. I woke up, finding myself lying in a hospital bed, with Oscar sitting next to me. I burst into tears, pleading with him to take me back to Washington. I didn't want to stay here any longer. Oscar held me tightly to reassure me. He said he would fulfill all my wishes once I recovered. The next morning, Oscar invited a psychologist to the house. I didn't want my husband to worry more, so I reluctantly met with the doctor. After their discussion, the doctor and Oscar left to talk privately. I went into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Had I fallen apart and become this exhausted? The image of me in the mirror suddenly smiled a haunting smile. I screamed in frustration. Whatever object was within my reach, I smashed violently against the mirror, shattering it. Oscar heard the noise and rushed to hold me tightly. The psychologist injected me with a sedative. I remember the sound of Oscar crying. He continuously whispered in my ear, "Everything will be okay. I'm right here with you. I fell asleep not long after that. When I woke up, the room around me was pitch black. A sudden pain shot through my abdomen, as if my flesh were being sliced open bit by bit. I reached to touch my stomach and felt a long cut with sticky liquid covering my hand. From the ceiling, a corpse dangled directly in front of me. It was a girl, dressed in a hospital gown, with messy hair, but her face was still clearly visible. She looked just like me. I jumped up, and Oscar was jolted awake by my movement. I looked at him, worried about me. I burst into tears, begging Oscar to forgive me. He didn't understand what was happening until I confessed everything. I am Ira, not my sister Erica. 13 years ago, I had a twin sister named Erica. We shared the same face, almost 99%. Even my mother found it hard to distinguish between us. But my sister and I were not as fortunate as many other twins. We couldn't live independent and free lives due to our conjointed bodies at the abdomen. We accepted a life attached to each other and had high hopes for the doctor's words, that by the age of 16, we could undergo surgery to separate us. While I had a strong personality, Erica was more gentle. My sister and I were stigmatized and ostracized by friends, but there was only one person who stood up to protect us. That was Oscar. From the first time I saw him, I liked Oscar, but didn't dare to say anything. I eagerly awaited the day when we could have successful surgery, and I could confess my feelings to him. Until one day, I discovered that Erica also liked Oscar. It was even more painful when he confessed his feelings for Erica while I was there. I was just the third wheel during their dates. It was truly ridiculous. The day we finally underwent surgery came, after being given anesthesia and lying in the waiting room. Erica and I got into an argument over a man. In a fit of rage, I strangled Erica, causing her to slowly dying. Everyone thought it was the effect of the anesthesia. By the time the surgery was successful, only I woke up. Taking advantage of our similar appearances, I disguised myself as Erica and lived the happy life that was supposed to be hers for the past 13 years. After hearing me recount the entire incident, Oscar looked at me with horror and walked away. I couldn't face Oscar afterward. I chose to stay here and confront my crime without returning to Washington. I longed to plead for Erica's forgiveness, but it was all too late.
I'm Thomas, 18 years old, and a first-year student at the University of South Florida. Everything is new to me, from the vast campus to the new friends I've made. The university has arranged for me and other first-year students to stay in the dorms. My dorm isn't the most modern or luxurious place, but it's enough for me to live comfortably and study. I share a room with a third-year student named Anthony. From the first time I met him, I could sense that Anthony was different. He's very quiet, almost to the point of being so silent that it feels like he doesn't exist. Anthony never speaks up on his own, and I didn't dare ask too many questions because I didn't want to bother him. Occasionally, I could only hear soft sounds coming from his side. I almost never saw him leave the room during the day, except when it got dark. Anthony never turned on the lights in the room. There was only a faint light from the window, whether it was day or night. When I first met him, I could say that Anthony was very handsome, but there was something oddly unusual about him. Anthony's skin was so pale, it was hard to believe. It wasn't the healthy, fair type, but rather a sickly, pale skin that was almost translucent. This could be due to him not being exposed to sunlight for a long time. His pale skin only made Anthony's full red lips stand out even more. But what truly sent a shiver down my spine whenever I looked at Anthony was his canine teeth. When facing Anthony, I couldn't help but notice the long, sharp, canine tooth that peeked out from behind his red lips. It made me feel like I was facing a creature that wasn't human. The The way Anthony moved only made that eerie feeling more pronounced. He didn't walk naturally. Every step was very gentle, making no sound at all. Anthony's strangeness made me feel scared and panicked on more than one occasion. One evening, I was reading at my desk. Suddenly, I heard a noise, a few soft thuds echoing. It was hard to pinpoint where the sound was coming from, as light was a luxury in my dorm room. When I turned my head, my gaze accidentally caught sight of Anthony. With the appearance I had described, Anthony startled me, making my whole body jump. But what I saw in Anthony's hand the next second was even more shocking, to the point that my whole body went numb and froze. A glass cup. Inside is a dark red liquid. That deep, dark red color made me shiver involuntarily. Anthony didn't even pay any attention to me. He drank the liquid slowly, sip by sip, as if he were enjoying a special drink just for him. When the liquid in the cup was almost gone, Anthony gently closed his eyes, feeling the taste, a look of satisfaction evident on his face. I could only watch every movement. My heart beat faster. The feeling of insecurity increased more and more. The fear inside me seemed to rise in waves from within my chest and then spread throughout my body. Can't explain the uncomfortable and creepy feeling when I saw him drinking it. I didn't dare ask, didn't dare look for too long. Quickly turned away, trying not to let the confusion in my heart take over. But I couldn't concentrate on the book anymore. Is he a vampire? Since that night, I can't get this thought out of my head. Every time I look at Anthony, I see his skin getting whiter and his eyes deeper. I started avoiding Anthony and didn't dare tell anyone what I thought. Part of me wanted to believe that I was just imagining it all, but the other part of me admitted that strange thoughts were slowly taking over my mind. I started trying to stay in the library longer to avoid having to go back to my room, but the obsession with Anthony still wouldn't leave. I felt more stressed and tired, couldn't concentrate on studying, couldn't sleep well, and couldn't do anything but worry. I tossed and turned all night, listening to every sound from outside the room, afraid that Anthony would suddenly appear and I wouldn't be able to escape. Every time I see him, I feel like there is a predator stalking me in the dark, waiting for the opportunity to attack. The more scared I became, the more I paid attention to Anthony. I observed his every gesture and action closely. From fear, I gradually got used to fear and turned it into curiosity. One morning, I saw Anthony wake up early. He happily hummed a song, went to the bathroom to take a shower, and came back with a completely different appearance. Anthony is handsome, with vibrant white skin, neatly combed hair, and fangs have also disappeared. Anthony put on a white shirt and neatly ironed trousers, ate a sandwich and drank another glass of dark red water, then left the room with the file in hand. I was stunned for a moment, stuck in thoughts of whether the person just now was Anthony or not. Getting out of bed, I walked over to Anthony's glass of water, picked it up, and slowly brought it up to my nose to smell it. "Pomegranate juice," I exclaimed in surprise, sinking deeper into the feeling of confusion, not being able to do anything decent that whole day. That afternoon, when I returned to my room after class, as soon as Anthony saw me, he happily greeted me. Anthony was extremely excited, boasting about the fact that his graduation thesis, research in the psychological phenomenon of vampires, was highly appreciated.
Welcome back to MHS, Midnight Horror Stories. I know many of you choose these videos to relax and easily drift off to sleep. Before you slip into your dreams, could you do me a small favor? Leave a quick interaction and let us know where you're watching this and at what time. Now, let's begin tonight's horror stories. I'm Kate, 22 years old, and I'm a senior at Ohio State. My boyfriend Alden is a year older than me. He's a mechanic at a small garage outside of town. We've been together for almost 2 years now. That day, Alden picked me up after class. We grabbed dinner at a restaurant in the city, then went to a late movie. After the movie, Alden drove me home. I was in the passenger seat, looking out the window. On both sides of the road were endless corn and soybean fields. The car's headlights lit up the empty lane. Every now and then, a car or two would zoom past us in the opposite direction. "We're almost out of gas," Alden said, looking at the fuel gauge. The needle was almost touching the red line. I checked the GPS on my phone. "We're still 20 minutes from your place." "I don't think we'll make it home. We need to find a gas station nearby." He said, "I think I saw a gas station around here once when I was driving through." This was an area I'd never been to before. The road was narrow, with dense woods on both sides. The houses were sparse, hundreds of yards apart. The air in the car grew silent. I felt a little uneasy looking out the window. The dark shadows from the trees seemed to move with the car. "Is this place really out of the way?" I asked. He'd only been on this road once too. After about 5 minutes of driving on the deserted road, we saw a faint light ahead. A gas station sign appeared. It was a small gas station with 2 pumps in front of a convenience store. There wasn't a soul in sight. "Is this place even open?" I looked around. The pumps are still lit up. It should be fine. Alden pulled in, stopping at pump number 2. When the engine turned off, we were surrounded by absolute silence. I glanced around and suddenly shivered. "This place feels a little creepy," I whispered. "Let's just get gas and go. You wait in the car for me, okay?" Alden closed the car door softly. I sat in the car, watching Alden. He was pumping gas and looking at his phone. In the rearview mirror, I saw a white car. It was driving very slowly, approaching the gas station, then stopped about 30 feet from us. Alden was looking at his phone, completely oblivious to the car that had just appeared. The headlights of the car behind us were still on, so I couldn't see clearly who was inside. A few more minutes passed. The white car didn't turn off its engine, and no one got out. I felt strange. Are they not planning to get gas? The white car suddenly backed up a little. Maybe they're thinking about it and decided not to get gas, I thought. The dark outline of a person sitting in the driver's seat appeared. The person sat still, seemingly looking towards Alden. The driver's side window slowly rolled down. A hand reached out. In the hand was something black. I squinted to see more clearly. A black handgun. My eyes widened as much as they could. My mouth fell open. My hands trembled, dropping my phone onto the car floor. The gun slowly pointed towards Alden. My whole body froze, a finger on the trigger. "Alden, look out!" My voice shattered the silence. Alden jumped, turning his head to look at me, a very surprised look on his face. The person in the white car heard me scream. The gun disappeared back into the car in a flash. The car door immediately closed. Alden stood there looking at me, not understanding what was happening. "Kate? What's wrong?" The white car suddenly made a sharp U-turn. The tires screeched loudly against the pavement, creating a piercing sound. The car sped up, driving very fast towards the main road. The red taillights grew smaller and then disappeared completely. I sat in the car, shaking uncontrollably. My heart was pounding so fast, I thought it would jump out of my chest. My breath was shallow, and my hands were drenched in sweat. Alden pulled the gas nozzle out, closed the gas cap, and then ran over to me. He opened the car door. "What's wrong with you? What happened?" I looked at him, my eyes filled with tears. "Alden, didn't you see? That white car?" "What white car?" Alden looked in the direction of the road. There was a white car parked right there. The person in the car, he had a gun, Alden. Alden looked at me as if he didn't believe me. "A gun?" "He was holding a gun pointed right at you. I saw it very clearly." Alden looked around one more time. The road was completely deserted. Alden was silent for a moment. then quickly finished filling the tank and drove away as fast as he could. I kept checking the rearview mirror, afraid the white car would appear and chase us. Kate, are you sure you saw a gun? Absolutely, Alden. If I hadn't yelled, you would have... I couldn't finish my sentence. Alden drove really fast. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. When we got home, we parked in the garage and locked the doors carefully. I said we had to call the police immediately, but Alden strongly disagreed. If we call the police without evidence, they'll think we're making it up. Just forget about it. I was surprised by Alden's attitude, but I didn't want to make a bigger deal out of it either. A week later, while helping Alden clean up, I accidentally found an old photo box at the bottom of a closet. In it were pictures of him with a group of tough-looking people, their arms covered in tattoos and strange symbols. When I asked about the photos, Alden just said they were old friends and quickly put them away. That night, I couldn't sleep no matter how hard I tried. The image of the gun haunted me, but it was Alden's strange behavior that unsettled me the most. Those photos kept flashing through my mind. I quietly started to find out. Through social media, I tracked down a few faces from the pictures. One was serving time for arms trafficking. Another had mysteriously disappeared last year. Every time I brought it up, Alden either brushed me off or snapped at me. The next morning, I left him a note that read, "Don't come looking for me." I decided to get out of town. I didn't know the full truth, but one thing was clear. If I stayed any longer, I might never get the chance to leave. I thought it would be just another normal shift. But then, from the back seat of that old car, I saw a small hand pressed against the window. Just a few minutes later, the man drove straight into the gas station to kill me. I'm Sean, 30 years old. I've been working at the Chevron DTC gas station on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado for 2 years now. My night shift starts at 10 p.m. and ends at 6 a.m. the next morning. Last Thursday night started like any other. I was sitting behind the counter, reading a book and sipping my coffee. The clock on the wall showed midnight. Outside, the green neon light of the sign illuminated the empty parking lot. The highway wasn't far, and I could hear cars whizzing by occasionally. A little while later, I heard an engine approaching. A gray car rolled into the station. The car looked pretty old, with paint peeling in many places, and the left headlight seemed a bit dim. The driver was a man in his 40s, with long, thinning brown hair and a thick beard. He parked at pump number 3, got out of the car, and opened the gas cap. What caught my attention was how he kept looking around cautiously. His hand trembled slightly as he held the gas nozzle. I went back to my book. Staring at someone for too long is rude, but I did the opposite of what I thought. After just a few seconds of looking at my book, I looked up at him again. This time, I saw a small movement in the back seat of the car. At first, I thought it was a reflection, but then I saw it more clearly. It was a small hand of a child, pressed against the back window. The hand only appeared for a few seconds before disappearing. It must be a small child with an adult, was my first thought. But the man's attitude made me get up to observe more closely. He was still pumping gas, but he turned back to look into the car, saying something with a sharp tone. The gas pump automatically stopped. The man hung up the nozzle and walked towards the store. He pushed open the glass door and walked toward me with a cold demeanor. "That'll be $30, pump number 3. "Yes, sir." I entered the amount into the register. "Do you have a small child in the car?" His eyes suddenly sharpened. "Why?" "I saw a kid in the back seat. If you need anything for the child, we have candy and sodas." "None of your business. Just ring it up." His reaction wasn't like a normal father who would smile and talk about his child. "Cash or card?" I tried to keep my voice calm. "Cash." He pulled out a wad of crumpled bills from his back pocket. I took the money, deliberately counting slowly. "Is there a problem with the pump?" "I need to check the receipt printer." No receipt needed. Just give me the change. Company policy. I have to print a receipt for every transaction. Hurry up! I bent down as if fixing the printer, but I was actually pulling my cell phone out of my pocket. I dialed 911 without looking, hoping I hit the right numbers. Sorry, the printer's jammed. It'll be a few more minutes. The man started to get restless. He glanced out the window towards the car. No receipt needed. I have to go now. Just a little longer, sir. I felt the phone in my hand vibrate, a sign the call was connected. I spoke louder than usual. Chevron DTC gas station in suburban Denver. I suspect a child abduction. The man suddenly realized what I was doing. His face went pale. You bastard. He reached over the counter to snatch the phone, but I managed to pull back. The police are coming! I yelled. He didn't say anything else, turned his back, and ran outside. I heard the car engine start. Through the glass, I saw him jump into the car and hit the gas. But instead of driving straight onto the road, he backed up, then slammed directly into the store. I jumped to the side as the Honda crashed into the glass door. The glass shattered loudly, pieces flying everywhere. The store's alarm blared, then went silent. The front of the car was deep inside the store, knocking over shelves of candy. I lay behind the counter, feeling blood from a few small cuts on my hands. The man yelled from inside the car, "I'll kill you!" But the car's engine had died. He tried to restart it, but the car wouldn't turn over. Police sirens blared in the distance, getting closer and closer. He opened the car door and ran out. I saw him through the gap between the fallen shelves. He ran towards the back of the store, but I knew there was only a dumpster and a high fence back there. He wouldn't be able to get away. 2 police cars pulled up right in front of the store. 4 officers jumped out, guns drawn. "Police! Freeze!" I crawled out from behind the counter, ran outside, and yelled, "He went out back!" 2 officers chased after the man. The other 2 approached the Honda that had crashed into the store. "There's a child in here," an officer called out. Through the shattered window of the car, I saw a boy about 10 years old, his mouth taped shut, in a state of extreme panic. The police carefully opened the car door. "It's okay, kiddo. You're safe now." The other 2 officers returned, escorting the man who was now handcuffed. He saw me and tried to lunge like a wild animal wanting to tear its prey apart. An ambulance arrived to check on the boy and bandage the cuts on my hand. Crime scene investigators began taking photos and collecting evidence. A male officer approached me. "You did a great job tonight. That boy might not have made it if it weren't for you." The boy was Tyler. He had been missing for 3 days after playing in a park near his home. I looked towards Tyler, who was being attended to by paramedics. Luckily, he wasn't injured. Tyler was still scared, but no longer crying, and his parents were on their way. I felt a shiver, but also a sense of relief that I had done the right thing. 2 hours later, Tyler's parents arrived and took him home. The boy hugged his parents tightly, sobbing. Before leaving, Tyler's parents brought him over to me. "Thank you so much," the boy said, then hugged me. I didn't know what to say, so I hugged Tyler back and gave him a piece of candy. My hands were still trembling from the whole ordeal. It was lucky that I trusted my gut. It has been weeks, but that night still lingers in my mind as if it just happened yesterday. I still remember the cold, exhausting feeling as I drove down Highway 61. But what I can't forget is that man. I never imagined that what seemed like an ordinary encounter would turn out to be the beginning of a nightmare. The gas light came on. I only had enough gas for about 10 more miles. My phone's map showed only one gas station about 11 miles away. I hoped I had enough fuel to make the trip. 10 minutes later, I saw a faint light ahead, and an old gas station appeared. I pulled up to a pump, swiped my credit card, started pumping gas, and looked around. Besides my car, there was an old, dark blue pickup truck parked in the corner of the station, mostly hidden by the shadows. That's when I noticed a figure standing near the blue truck, a tall man wearing a dark jacket. I tried to act normal, focusing on pumping gas, but my heart started pounding. The shadowy figure started moving toward me, slowly, step by step. I could hear his shoes crunching on the gravel. The gas nozzle wasn't even full yet, but all I wanted to do was jump in my car and speed away immediately. "Good evening, friend." The man's voice was deep and hoarse. He stepped into the light, his face long and gaunt, with stubble and deep-set eyes under the brim of his hat. "Are you driving alone?" I nodded, not wanting to talk, but also not wanting to seem scared. "Yeah, I'm heading home. My car broke down. I need to get to Millfield. It's only about 30 miles from here. Could you give me a ride?" I looked at him, trying to size him up. He was half a head taller than me, with broad shoulders and large hands. There was something bulging in his jacket pocket, and I didn't want to know what it was. "Sorry, I'm not going through Millfield. I'm going the other way." The man's smile disappeared. "Millfield is on Highway 61. You're on this road. I'm turning off at the next intersection." The man was silent for a moment, his eyes staring intently at me. "There's no intersection ahead. You're lying." The gas nozzle had stopped. I slowly removed the nozzle from my car, closed the gas cap, not taking my eyes off him. "I really need to get to Millfield tonight. It's important." "Just a short ride." The man took another step toward me. I shook my head, moving towards my car door. "I can't. Sorry." He reached into his jacket pocket, but instead of pulling out something dangerous, he pulled out a wad of cash. "I'll pay you $200, just for 30 miles. "No thanks." I opened my car door, quickly sliding into the driver's seat. He put his hand on my car door, stopping me from closing it. $500. "Buddy, I really need help." "I'm really sorry, sir," I said, trying to pull the door shut. The man wouldn't let go. Instead, he leaned down, his face just inches from mine. The smell of whiskey and cigarettes wafted from his breath. "Listen, I don't want any trouble, but I have to get to Millfield tonight. Understand?" I was about to answer when another pair of headlights shone into the gas station. A police patrol car slowly pulled in. The man immediately let go of my car door and backed up a few steps. The police car parked, and an officer got out. The man's demeanor instantly changed. He became relaxed and friendly. "Is there a problem?" the officer asked, his gaze moving between me and the man. "No problem at all, officer. I was just asking for directions to Millfield." The officer nodded, but I noticed he was observing the man closely. "Could I see some ID, sir?" The man hesitated for a second, then said, "I left it in my truck." "Let me get it." He turned his back and walked toward the blue pickup truck. That's when the officer moved closer to me, lowering his voice just enough to be heard. "Are you willing to give him a ride?" I shook my head. "I'm really not going through Millfield." "I see. Better safe than sorry." His eyes quickly shifted towards the truck. Suddenly, the truck's engine roared to life. The blue pickup truck sped out of the gas station at a crazy speed. I stood there, stunned. He just said his car broke down, and now he was speeding away like nothing was wrong. The officer quickly reported it over his radio, his voice tense as he described the truck and requested backup. He turned back to me, his eyes more serious than ever. I recounted every detail of my encounter with the man. The officer used his radio again, requesting a lookout for the truck, suspecting foul play. For me, he sent another colleague to escort me home to ensure my safety. 2 months passed. Life slowly returned to normal, but I couldn't completely shake the uneasy feeling from that night. One evening, I was watching the news as usual. An image of a familiar face suddenly appeared on the screen, making my blood run cold. Deep-set eyes, a gaunt face. It was exactly the man from the gas station that night. Stuart Welch, 45 years old, serial killer. He murdered 5 victims in 3 years using the same method, faking a broken-down car, asking for a ride, then overpowering them and taking them to a remote location. I sat motionless, every detail flooding back. The news anchor continued. He was caught thanks to a report from a lucky witness who escaped 2 months ago. So, I could have been the sixth victim if that police officer hadn't shown up at the right time. If I'd agreed to give him a ride, things might have... I turned off the TV, sitting in silence. I was right to trust my gut feeling that murders often happen in deserted places. I never thought I'd almost become living proof of that statement. Since that night, I've never dared to drive alone on empty roads. I am William, 32 years old. My passion for exploring forgotten places always drives me to seek out mysterious and eerie locations. A few months ago, one night, I stood in front of an abandoned hotel, located lonely at the edge of a forest in a sparsely populated town. The massive building loomed in the darkness, its exterior covered in moss and streaks of cracks stretching like spider webs. The shattered window panes reflected the moonlight, creating distorted, eerie shapes. I gripped the camera tightly, feeling the cold wind brush against my skin, carrying with it the smell of dampness and decay. I had heard the stories surrounding this place, the mournful cries at night, the strange lights flickering on and off, and the inexplicable sounds. All of these things made my heart race, a mix of fear and excitement. I chose the night to fully experience everything, when the darkness would conceal everything, while also revealing the most terrifying things. As I stepped through the half-broken front door, I was immediately overwhelmed by the space inside. The vast lobby was completely silent, filled with darkness. The tattered long curtains swayed with each gust of wind that slipped through the cracks. My flashlight swept over a dusty reception desk, where a notebook, nearly eaten through by termites, lay forgotten. Every step I take echoes through the room, as if about to awaken something sleeping in the dark. I had only taken a few steps when I sensed the presence of something. A shadow flashed briefly at the end of the hallway, too fast for me to make out its shape. I stopped, my heart pounding in my chest. Is there someone here? I wondered to myself. But the space remained silent, only the sound of the wind blowing through the cracks in the door. I decided to climb the stairs to the upper floor. The old stairs creaked with every step I took. The space here is more suffocating. The air feels heavier and colder. As I reached the middle of the hallway, I heard a faint sound, like a weak cry for help coming from a nearby room. I stepped closer, my hand gripping the flashlight tightly, my breath heavy. The door in front of me was locked, but the sound from inside was clearer, like someone was gently tapping. I placed my hand on the doorknob, ready to open the door, when suddenly, a loud noise echoed from behind me. I startled and turned around, but the hallway was empty. Once again, the shadow flashed by, so fast that I couldn't identify what it was. I turned on the flashlight, sweeping the light everywhere. A sense of confusion began to spread within me, but curiosity urged me to move forward. I turned around, placed my hand on the door, but was immediately interrupted by a loud scream. A figure appeared from the darkness, charging straight toward me. The light from the flashlight illuminated his distorted face. Bloodshot eyes, mouth open wide in a mad hiss, the clothes he wore tattered. I froze for a moment, my body stiff with fear, but instead of running, I tried to signal that I had no intention of harming him. I took a step back, but he advanced closer, his hand raised as if to attack. When I realized he either didn't understand or didn't care about my intentions, I turned and ran. A door behind me suddenly burst open, and a strong force pulled me inside. I fell to the floor, and in front of me was a woman. Her hair was matted, her clothes torn and covered in dirt. Her eyes were darkened, filled with panic and exhaustion. She raised her hand as if pleading for something, but before I could do anything, the screams outside and the pounding on the door sounded like thunder. The door shook violently as each strike of the axe hit it with force. We gathered everything we could to block the door. A cabinet, a few old chairs, but none of it was enough to make us feel safe. I took out my phone, my hand shaking as I called the police, my voice unable to hide the panic. The woman beside me kept pointing at the door, tears streaming down her pale face. She gestured for me not to let him in. The axe struck repeatedly, causing the wooden planks on the door to crack. I heard the distant sound of a police siren, like a faint ray of hope. The person outside seemed to notice it too. The banging stopped, and then I heard footsteps running down the hallway. A few minutes later, the light from the police flashlight shone through the crack in the door. The lunatic was apprehended on the spot, with no chance to escape. The woman and I were taken outside, our legs trembling, unable to stand. The woman's identity was quickly confirmed. She was Mandy Perez, a person who had been reported missing by her family 5 years ago. Her family, despite enduring years of waiting in anguish, never gave up hope of finding her. The identity of the kidnapper was quickly confirmed as Victor Hall, a former hotel employee who had worked here before it was shut down. Victor had an unstable psychological history with a background of substance abuse and violence. When the hotel went bankrupt and closed nearly a decade ago, Victor seemed to become obsessed with the place and chose it as his hiding spot. Here, Mandy was held captive like a prisoner. Victor, in his delusion, created a distorted reality, viewing Mandy as a companion to escape the loneliness in his crazed mind. He gave Mandy no chance to escape and often threatened her if she tried to resist. Mandy had lived in fear for 5 years, enduring both mental and physical torment from Victor. Victor will face a severe sentence, being imprisoned for life in a maximum security prison, ensuring he will never have the chance to harm anyone again. As for me, seeing Mandy reunited with her family, I couldn't help but feel proud for having done the right thing. But the haunting memory of the darkness in that hotel still lingers with me. The images of the dark room, the sound of the axe hitting the door, and the wild look in the madman's eyes often wake me in the middle of the night, my body drenched in sweat. I decided that I could no longer live with those dangerous and haunting experiences. My camera and old equipment were tucked away in a corner, just like how I buried my fascination with exploring creepy places. Instead, I began to find joy in wholesome travels. Sunlit paths, vibrant beaches, and peaceful towns with friendly locals.
I'm William, about to enter my senior year at Rice University, Texas. I just moved from the apartment I rented near campus to my house, accepting the fact that I would spend nearly 4 hours every day commuting by bus between home and school, because of a haunting story I went through a month ago. It has kept me living in constant panic and stress. My academic performance has declined, and I've lost nearly 20 pounds. I still clearly remember the excitement I felt when moving into the new apartment. It was an affordable apartment, not spacious, but enough for a college student like me. I've always had a healthy lifestyle and maintained a serious attitude toward my studies. Therefore, having a private space to focus on studying and resting is something I always wished for. Although the rent was cheap and the apartment was nothing special, I felt lucky to find a suitable, quiet, and convenient place. The first days passed very peacefully. I lived in a small apartment, rearranging the space myself to be as neat and comfortable as possible. My daily life is pretty routine. I go to school, come home, cook, and then study until late at night. Everything is going as I planned, a stable, orderly life. One afternoon in the lecture hall, while preparing for the next class, I asked Richard to watch my backpack for a moment so I could go to the restroom. But the mistake started with me, from trusting a guy who only cared about women too much. After about 10 minutes, I came back to find my backpack gone, while Richard was busy flirting with the girl sitting next to him. In that backpack were all the most important things to me: my wallet, apartment keys, and even my laptop. I panicked,
A sense of helplessness overwhelmed me as I realized everything was gone. I had to spend the whole day reporting the lost items, locking my bank accounts, and contacting the landlord to find a way to get back into my apartment. But the truly horrifying events were just beginning. I started entering the final exams and spent most of my time in the apartment studying for the exams. One morning, after waking up and sitting at my study desk following breakfast, I was a bit surprised when I picked up my textbook. On the cover, there was a small sticky note with a handwritten message. "I'm back." I thought maybe someone in my group of friends was playing a prank after hearing about my lost backpack and decided to scare me a little. I didn't think much of it and threw the note away, trying to focus on studying. But the prank didn't stop there. The sticky notes kept appearing. Every day when I came home, I would find a new sticky note with cryptic messages written on it. "You're not alone. I quite like it here." Every time I saw those words, I felt a shiver run down my spine. I asked my friends about the prank, but they all firmly insisted they had nothing to do with it. Still, I reassured myself that this was just a mean-spirited prank from them. I didn't want to overthink it and make myself more anxious. One day, after returning home from a day of studying at the library, I noticed that something felt really off about the apartment. A few items I had left on the desk were gone. My favorite water cup, a few books I hadn't gotten around to reading. I searched everywhere but couldn't find them, and that left me feeling confused. When I went into the kitchen, I froze in shock when I saw that the food in the fridge had been half-eaten and thrown around haphazardly. That was the food I had bought for the entire week. I immediately called the landlord and then reported it to the police. They came to investigate, but there were no clear signs of a break-in. I was certain that there was an intruder, and it was highly likely that he was the same person who had stolen my backpack 2 weeks ago. He wanted to disrupt my life, or was there something else he wanted? I couldn't sleep after that night. Every small sound in the apartment made me jump, my heart racing wildly. I felt no longer safe, as if every wall around me had become fragile, unable to protect me anymore. The next day, I suggested to the landlord that we change the locks and install cameras. He was very kind, and everything was taken care of that morning. But that still wasn't enough to make me feel at ease. Every time I entered the house, I felt as if someone was watching me from the darkness, eyes hiding somewhere, tracking my every step. I didn't dare turn off the lights while sleeping, but the light didn't ease my fear. It only made the darkness seem deeper. It felt as if something was waiting in the darkness, ready to emerge when I let my guard down. The sleepless nights went on, and the obsession grew stronger with each passing day. Every morning when I woke up, I anxiously looked around, checking if anything was different or if any items had been moved. I felt like I was living with a creep, but I couldn't figure out who he was. He left no trace, no clear sign, except for the scary notes and the mess in the apartment. The feeling of being invaded, watched, and helpless made me lose the confidence and peace I once had. I decided to leave the dorm and go back home, leaving all the fear and obsession behind. I didn't want to find out anything, and I believed that my choice was the best to keep my current life peaceful.
I'm Karen, 18. Just moved into the dorms at Franklin College, a small, chill school in Ohio. Since arriving late, I didn't have a lot of choices for a room. I ended up with a room on the top floor, which is pretty annoying for getting around. The hallway was dark, the windows were busted, and the wind blew through, making creepy noises. Even though I felt weird right from the start, I told myself it was all in my head, and everything would be fine. When I opened the door, I saw JC, a classmate who had been here earlier. JC was quiet and had something kind of weird about her. There were crosses hanging all over the room, and the lights were always on, even during the day. Every night, JC would play music and curl up on the bed, her face always looking tense and scared. Her random gasps and jumps in the middle of the night made it almost impossible for me to get any sleep those first few days. I was so exhausted. I went to the dorm office to ask for a room change, but they were all full. With no other option, I decided to stick it out and figure out a way to deal with it. I decided to start a conversation, telling some funny stories to try and get JC out of her shell. At first she was quiet, but over time, we started getting closer. One Saturday night, while we were sitting on the floor eating pizza, JC finally opened up. She said that since moving into this room, she's been hearing a girl sobbing and whispering in a sad way. There were nights when loud banging noises came from the wall, but she couldn't figure out where they were coming from. JC thought this room had some creepy secret, and that fear made her unable to sleep without the lights and music on. Listening to her story, I got the chills and tried to tell myself that JC was just overthinking it. But after that day, everything started to change. The weird stuff JC told me about, I started feeling it too. One night, while JC was asleep, I was lying in bed and heard a soft knocking sound from the wall across from me. The knocking was steady, getting louder and louder, like someone was trying to break out. I jumped up, my heart racing and my whole body freezing. I shook JC awake, but when she opened her eyes, everything went silent. We just sat there, frozen under the light, with a creepy feeling filling the whole room. A few days later, while cleaning, I accidentally found a weird object stuck in the crack of the old cabinet. It was a dusty student ID with the name Tabby Nelson on it. In the photo, Tabby was this pretty girl with long brown hair and a big smile. When I read the info on the card, I realized Tabby was a student at the school, like 7 years older than us. That night, JC and I sat in front of our laptops looking up info about Tabby in the school system. The results shocked us both. Tabby Nelson had dropped out before even finishing her freshman year. There was no note, just the reason: sudden transfer. JC didn't stop. She kept searching through old news sites. Suddenly, JC stopped, her eyes wide, voice shaking as she read an article. Tabby Nelson went missing from her dorm. I just stared at the screen, reading those words. Almost 10 years ago, Tabby was last seen heading back to her room late at night. The police searched everywhere but didn't find a thing. What made me shiver even more was that the room Tabby had been in was ours now. I felt cold all over. The weird sounds JC heard, the crying and the knocking, it could have been Tabby Nelson. I tried to come up with a reasonable explanation, but I couldn't. This room wasn't just old and forgotten. It had a creepy story buried in it for years. Since that day, neither JC nor I could sleep. The knocking got louder and clearer, with whispers and sometimes soft sobs mixed in. One time, when I was lying down to sleep, JC suddenly shook me awake, her face pale. "Karen, there are footsteps on this ceiling." We both froze, holding our breath. The footsteps dragged slowly, then just stopped right above our heads. The next day, we decided to look into it more seriously. After asking some seniors a few times, we heard rumors about what happened to Tabby. Some people whispered that Tabby had been taken by the dorm manager himself. They said Tabby had found out something she wasn't supposed to know, and to shut her up, the manager tried to get rid of her. After that, no one ever saw Tabby again. The room she'd stayed in was locked up right after and stayed empty for years. But because so many students were coming in this year, the school had to reopen the old rooms. That night, JC and I decided to do something crazy. Search for evidence inside the room. We grabbed flashlights and checked every corner of the room to see if anything was missing. When JC pulled out the bookcase, she shined the light on it and found an old wooden box. When we opened it, there was a diary inside with the name Tabby Nelson on it. JC and I opened the diary. Tabby's shaky handwriting told a terrifying story. He was always watching me, the dorm manager. He threatened me when I found out he was using girls for some terrible stuff. I didn't dare tell anyone. He said if I said anything, I'd disappear forever. If anyone finds this book, please tell the truth. I don't want to be forgotten. I put the book down, my hands shaking. JC hugged me and started crying. The next morning, we took the diary to the police. A few days later, the news spread like wildfire through the school. The police searched the dorm again and found a secret underground bunker. There, they found the remains of a young girl, later identified as Tabby Nelson. The dorm manager was arrested shortly after. He confessed to the crime. He killed Tabby to silence her after she found out he was abusing and threatening the girls. The whole school was shocked, unable to believe that such a horrible secret had been hidden for so many years. The last night before moving out of the dorm, I dreamed of Tabby. She stood in the dim light, her long hair loose, a gentle smile on her face. This time, she wasn't crying anymore. When I woke up, I felt a weight lift off my heart. Finally, the truth came out, and Tabby Nelson would no longer be a ghost lurking in the walls.
I'm Jason, and these are my two hands without fingers. This is the most painful and terrifying experience I've ever had. 10 years ago, I was a sophomore at the University of California, San Diego. I spent my free time working as a freelance deliverer. The job was risky, but it offered flexible hours and helped me cover my living expenses. Occasionally, I'd receive extra tips, which always made me excited. I'd been doing this job for nearly a year when that fateful night occurred. On that day, I didn't go to work. Instead, I spent time working on a presentation for the end of a course. I forgot to update my account on the order receiving website to not accepting orders. Around 10 p.m., my account received a notification about a delivery order. Before I could read all the details, my phone rang unexpectedly from an unknown number. I answered, and on the other end was a woman who wanted me to deliver the package to the specified address by midnight. She emphasized that it was 12 midnight and instructed me to be punctual. Before I could respond, the call ended abruptly. Right after that, the delivery fee was transferred to my account. Seeing the amount, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was 10 times more than my usual orders. Immediately, I forgot about the importance of my presentation. I rushed from my dorm to the location where the orders were gathered. On the package, there was an address and a phone number, but no recipient name. I started the delivery at 10:30 p.m. It was an old but spacious house tucked away in a narrow alley. Checking my watch, it was 11:57, and I stood at the door, ready and alert, not daring to waste a single second. As the clock struck midnight, I immediately rang the doorbell. But before the bell stopped ringing, the door of the house swung open. From inside, an elderly woman stepped out, looking at me with indifferent eyes. She was tall, but her skin was wrinkled and dark, with high cheekbones and sunken features, and her hair was disheveled, some parts long, some short. I politely greeted her and handed her the package. When I presented the delivery slip and asked her to sign to confirm the receipt of the package, she hesitated. Instead of signing, she stared at my hand for a moment before speaking in a deep, hoarse voice that startled me slightly. "Would you stay for dinner with me?" I'm terribly sorry, ma'am, but Without letting me finish, she handed me $100, saying it was a tip. She promised to pay more if I agreed to have dinner with her and assured me it would only take 20 minutes. I agreed, feeling a bit crazy, but that's what I did at the time. I thought she might be very lonely and in need of companionship. Plus, it wouldn't take much time, and I could go home and continue preparing for tomorrow's presentation. Stepping into the house, everything was rather old but clean and orderly. She invited me to sit at the dining table, where food and utensils were already prepared for two. She went into the kitchen to get something. Wanting to break the silence, I asked her name.
Adela,
came the short, indifferent reply. I tried asking a few more questions, but she didn't respond, so I fell silent. A moment later, she emerged, placing a pair of scissors and a gun on the table. I was both surprised and puzzled why dinner would require a gun. Adela placed the package on the table and used the scissors to open it. As soon as the last strip of tape was cut and the box was opened, I felt a horrifying regret for agreeing to dinner with her. The package I had delivered turned out to contain human fingers. Adela poured the blood-stained fingers onto her plate and mine. A chill ran down my spine. My skin crawled and my mind reeled in shock. I was too stunned to speak. Adela gripped the gun tightly and began devouring the fingers voraciously. She looked at me and ordered me to eat. Trembling, I lifted the fork and stabbed at a piece of salad near the fingers. I forced a bite of salad into my mouth, suppressing my urge to retch. The metallic stench of blood overwhelmed me, causing my head to spin. I gagged and clamped my mouth shut, sitting in silence as I watched the terrifying woman devour the fingers on the plate. My body was drenched in sweat, shivering uncontrollably, every cell in me trembling. Adela took a tissue to wipe the blood from her mouth just as the table clock unexpectedly chimed loudly. "The 20-minute dinner is over," Adela's terrifying voice echoed. She pulled out $100 and placed it on the table. Adela then initiated another transaction. She said she would pay me $100,000 if I'd let her eat all 10 of my fingers.
"These fingers taste too ordinary. Your fingers look tastier," she said.
My heart felt like it was being squeezed. This woman was truly insane. I began to feel uneasy, fully aware of everything around me, but I couldn't control my body anymore. I sat there witnessing the whole process of that insane woman eating my fingers, one by one, without resistance, pain, or screams. I woke up in the hospital with both hands bandaged. I still couldn't control my body. The doctor informed me that all 10 fingertips had been severed. Blood tests revealed I was poisoned with a toxin that rendered my body in a paralyzed state beyond control. A passerby found me in a dire condition by the roadside and brought me to the hospital. As for Adela, she was found dead in that house, choked on bone fragments lodged in her throat. She was infected with a virus that affected her brain and nervous system due to cannibalism. I abandoned my studies and lost a bright future ahead of me. If only I hadn't been consumed by greed and curiosity. I wish I could forget the horrifying images of that night forever. I'm Dean. I'd got a wife and 2 young kids, a girl and a boy. We all lived happily in the peaceful, beautiful town of Tyringham, Massachusetts. We both agreed on limiting electronic devices when it came to raising our kids. We'd spend time playing and chatting with our kids. My favorite family game when we had free time was hide and seek. Looking for someone in a familiar space is exciting. It's also a bit thrilling and unpredictable. Usually we hid, and then the kids did the searching. I usually picked spots where I was pretty visible, like sticking out my arms or feet to give the kids a hint. Once they found me, I joined the kids in searching for my wife. Unlike me, Iris picked the most unexpected hiding spots. In the same space, she hid in the most unexpected places, under the sofa, in the kitchen cabinet, you name it. Every time we found her, the kids burst into laughter, and it made us really happy. But eventually, the game started to get a bit boring. The kids lost patience if they had to search for too long. My daughter even got upset and cried if she couldn't find us. So we decided to switch up the game a bit. One person hid, and the other 3 searched. I definitely knew where Iris is hiding, but I wouldn't give it away right away. "I think I saw Mom hiding behind the kitchen cabinet," I told the kids, all excited. The kids giggled and dashed off to find their mom, but she was actually behind the shelf in the living room. To keep things interesting, we decided to stretch the game a bit for more suspense. One Saturday evening, after we all finished dinner, my son Terry said he wanted to play hide and seek, and everyone was totally on board. We decided that Iris would hide, and the rest of us would go looking for her. 1, 2, 3, 7, 10, 100. My daughter's sweet and not so serious counting made me and my wife crack up. We all heard my wife's joyful laughter, and I figured it was coming from the kitchen. "Hey kids, let's check the living room for Mom first." They immediately ran off calling for their mom. I just stood there, feeling the kind of happiness any dad feels watching their kids have a blast. Emma quickly turned around and said Mom wasn't there, and Terry always echoed her. "Okay, then you two check the bathroom." "Mom, don't change your hiding spot," Emma said loudly, grabbed their little brother's hand, and they both ran into the bathroom. "Dad, I still can't find Mom," my son ran back and said. I smiled and pointed to the kitchen. The kids got it, covered their mouths, laughed happily, and tiptoed over to the kitchen. I showed them where I knew my wife was hiding. "Gotcha!" The kids shouted with joy. I watched them and laughed out loud, but after a few seconds, their happy faces fell. She wasn't there. She must have sneaked off and changed her hiding spot. My wife could be so sneaky. I smiled and used a teasing voice to lift the kids' spirits again. "Little detectives, go check the bedroom for Mom. I'm sure she's there. Hurry up, you two." The kids went along, but they weren't as excited anymore. I followed the kids upstairs and pushed the door open. We were all surprised when we didn't see my wife. At this point, the kids officially gave up on the game. They ran back to the living room and grabbed their toys to play. I walked around the house calling out for her. "Honey, we've lost. Just come out." My wife was more stubborn than I'd thought. She'd hidden in all sorts of tricky spots, but I still managed to find her. Did she find a new hiding spot? "Honey, the kids aren't playing anymore. Come out." Then I heard a door bang in the basement. This time I was sure my wife was down there. I headed down the stairs to the basement. The dim light was even creepier than the darkness. I called her name loudly, but there was still no response. At this point, I started losing my patience. "Iris, it's not fun anymore. The kids and I aren't into the game anymore. You should come out. It's almost bedtime for them." All I got in response was silence, the gloom, and a bit of the musty smell of the basement. The light bulb kept flickering and then went out, leaving me swallowed by darkness. Not able to see anything, I stood still for a few seconds and called out for Iris again. I was really scared of not being able to figure out where I was. "Iris, please!" I heard a rattling sound of light, so I called out for my wife quickly, feeling a bit annoyed. "I'm heading upstairs. I'm done with this game." I turned around and walked straight ahead, groping in front of me to find the stairs. Something brushed past my hand, and I quickly pulled it back and froze. I called out for Iris, but this time with a slightly louder, more annoyed voice. As I turned back toward the basement, I saw something flash past me. I was sure it wasn't Iris. She's less than 5 feet tall. The person I saw had to be over 7 feet tall. I ran as fast as I could, with urgency and panic taking over. If I could just reach the steps, I could find my way up to the house. I tripped and fell, my whole body tumbling down the stairs, with the impact making me feel like my insides were screaming. I got up and crawled out of the basement. I rushed to the living room to find my kids. "Emma! Terry!" I screamed. "What's wrong, honey?" Iris and the kids looked at me blankly. Turns out, my wife was just sitting in the living room playing with them. "Where have you been?" "I was hiding outside the house. You didn't expect that, did you?" I immediately pulled my wife and the kids into the room, leaving them all confused. I locked the door, told Iris what had happened, and called the police. 10 minutes later, the police arrived. They searched the basement and the whole house, but found nothing unusual. I called someone to demolish the basement, even though Iris wasn't happy about it, and changed all the locks in the house. I still can't explain what I saw that day, but the feeling I got when someone brushed past my hand still makes me shiver. I just wanted to make sure my wife and kids were as safe as possible. I've got an office job with a steady paycheck. Lately, I've been driving for a ride-hailing service whenever I've got some free time. Even though it's just a side gig, it brings in some pretty decent money. What I love about this driving gig is meeting and chatting with all kinds of people from different jobs. Getting 5-star reviews with nice comments from customers keeps me pumped all day. After a few months of juggling 2 jobs, I decided to take a few days off. I took a drive up to Oregon, known for its cool rainforests and awesome rivers. In the fall, the pine trees and maple leaves turn yellow and red, making everything look romantic. Honestly, I had my first love in Oregon, and everything about that first time was totally unforgettable. After 4 days soaking in the romantic vibes of Oregon, I headed back in the evening, because my car had some issues. Halfway through the trip, my phone buzzed with a notification from the ride-hailing app. There's a customer nearby waiting for you to pick up. Weirdly enough, I didn't have the app on ready mode since I was on vacation. A notification popped up again. There's a customer nearby waiting for you to pick up. Not wanting my star rating to hit a low, I went ahead and accepted the trip. When I got to the customer's place, according to the GPS, it started to drizzle, and I looked around but didn't see anyone. Out of nowhere, there was a knock on the passenger door. I turned around and saw a guy peeking inside. I rolled down the window and quickly told the customer to hop in the car. "The back seat of yours," he said while pointing, and I glanced in that direction too. My back seat was loaded with stuff for the trip. "I'm sorry. I can just chill in the passenger seat. Is it a hassle for you?" "I'm fine, no worries." He opened the door and hopped in, and I felt lucky to have an easygoing customer. But his face looked pretty stiff. Checking out where the customer wanted to go, I got lucky, because it was on the same route as my place. Oregon is beautiful, isn't it? "Yeah, I really love Oregon." "But how did you know I was just there?" I was totally surprised. He looked at me and said, "I guess so, especially with all the stuff in your car." I just nodded and smiled. After chatting for a bit, I thought he was pretty cool, but the look on his face could be kind of misleading. "Does your job feel more stressful since you got promoted?" I didn't answer his question, and just shot him a suspicious look. "Sorry, but did I ever say that?" You told me that a few minutes ago," he replied, not even looking at me. I don't really remember. Maybe I did say it, but I'm not sure, so I just nodded and let it go. The vibe went quiet, and I just focused on driving, not really paying much attention to the passenger next to me anymore. It wasn't pouring, but visibility was kinda low, so I had to drive super careful. I got home 20 minutes earlier than I thought I would. Glancing back at the map to check the exact address the passenger booked, I was shocked and hit the brake hard without even thinking. This is my home address. I screamed inside my head, trying to open my eyes as wide as I could to see the address clearly again. "What's up, Philip?" the guy asked in a way that gave me the creeps. How do you know my name?" I swear, I never said my name. This guy was really sketchy. There's no way I mentioned going on vacation in Oregon or getting promoted at work. "What's your deal? How do you know my name and all this info?" I switched to high alert and said it in a serious tone. "I just want to go home." His cold eyes were the last thing I really saw clearly. My feet were glued to the gas pedal when I heard the loud crash of a collision. I felt the airbag go off, and my head and hands were bleeding. I turned to look at the guy next to me, and the worst thought hit me. He might be dead, but there was no one there. The car door was still closed, and the man had vanished. Someone yelled really loud, and then rushed to call the police. My vision went all blurry and red, and then I blacked out. When I woke up in the hospital, I couldn't believe I actually made it through. Luckily, I only had some minor injuries to my soft parts. Police took my statement and looked into it for a month. In the end, they figured the guy was just my imagination or a hallucination because I was worn out from driving. I still remember the guy's voice and face super clearly, even though it's been almost 8 years. I stopped driving for a living and never drove at night again.
I am Mia, 31 years old, and I work as a manager at Rudy's Country in Austin. I just moved to a new place to make it more convenient for commuting to work. Everything here would be perfect if it weren't for the eccentric neighbor across from my house. My job allows me to have plenty of free time every morning. Therefore, I usually start my day with a cup of tea and watch the news. The Austin City Police Department has reported the disappearance of a young woman named Gail Morgan, 29 years old. Disappearances always target women and children, those with weaker ability to resist. I muttered to myself, simultaneously considering the idea of applying for a permit to own a gun for self-defense. Seeing the image of the young woman on the news was really pitiful. It seemed like I had seen her somewhere before. It was just a fleeting thought, and I quickly got ready to go to work. The workday was busy since it was the weekend, but the image of the missing girl kept lingering in my mind. Driving home from work at 10 p.m., I accidentally saw my neighbor dragging a cart full of cardboard boxes. I politely greeted him, but all I received in response was an indifferent and emotionless attitude. After a whole day of work until late, I didn't feel tired at all, but just a brief encounter with the neighbor left me feeling frustrated. I told myself I wouldn't bother paying any attention to that eccentric guy anymore. But things didn't simply just end there. I took a shower, changed clothes, and lay down on the bed to relax around midnight. As I was about to drift off to sleep, a noise from an object I couldn't identify woke me up. I sat up, looking toward the window with annoyance and irritation. It seemed to be coming from the neighbor's house, and it sounded like a chainsaw. I got out of bed and walked over to open the window. It was definitely coming from his house, as the lights inside were still on. As I was thinking about how to respond to the noise, it suddenly stopped. But I was already wide awake
and tossed and turned until nearly 2 a.m. In the following days, I was busy with work, so I only spent about 6 to 7 hours at home each day. Finally, there came a day when I could relax and rest. I slept straight through until 2 p.m., woke up, had a light salad, and planned to go back to bed, but the sound of arguing from the neighbor's house caught my attention. In front of the neighbor's house across the street, 2 women from the neighboring houses were showing clear signs of frustration. I could faintly hear the argument, which seemed to be about the neighbor refusing to clean his house, causing garbage smells to affect the 2 families next door. The neighbor threw them hostile glares, his mouth constantly muttering to himself. "I'll clean up this afternoon," he said, then stormed inside and slammed the door shut. I sighed in frustration and went back inside. Thankfully, the unpleasant smell hadn't reached my house yet. By evening, I saw that neighbor drive back in a small pickup truck with something large and heavy in the back, like a wardrobe. At that moment, I wondered what kind of noise the night would bring. But after that day, there were no more noises or complaints about the unpleasant smell coming from the neighbor's house. I thought maybe things would settle down as long as I didn't pay any more attention to that guy. But fate had one final encounter in store for me with him. One that would leave me with an obsession I couldn't escape. Once again, I saw the news report about the mysterious disappearance of Gail Morgan. In that moment, I jumped up, my gaze instantly turning toward the neighbor's house. That's right, it was her, the girl who had lived at his house for a while. I had seen her a few times, but just only briefly. Chainsaw, the smell, the wardrobe. I pieced everything together and suddenly shuddered. I rushed to lock all the doors in the house, called the police, and chose to remain anonymous. About 20 minutes after the police arrived, he was handcuffed, escorted to the car, and another SWAT team arrived to search the house. I couldn't see what happened inside. The next day, following the news, the police announced that they had found Gail, but she was not intact. She had been hidden in the fridge and freezer in the neighbor's house. The reasons behind the neighbor's brutal actions and his criminal mindset were beyond the explanation of any expert. I didn't go home for a week after that and chose to stay at a hotel because of the haunting fear. I couldn't bear the thought of living across from the home of a cold-blooded, sick murderer. The story above is based on a real event that occurred on May 22nd, 2019. The Michigan police in the United States received a tip-off call. The caller concealed their identity and provided the police with a single address, telling them that they would find Kelly Jean Warner, the woman who had been missing for weeks, at that location. At that moment, no one could have imagined that the phone call would lead them to uncover a truly horrific case, one that would haunt many of the American police officers involved. The perpetrator was the victim's boyfriend. He imprisoned her and used all kinds of brutal torture to make his girlfriend lose her basic human physiology and have to rely entirely on him. Finally, he murdered and dismembered the unfortunate girl into many pieces and hid them in the house, living as if nothing had happened. The killer was considered one of the most cruel and perverse criminals in U.S. history.